Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things that I've learned as I've grown into the person that I am today. And I was looking at the weather and noticed that tomorrow it is supposed to be 87 degrees and bright sun outside. This is Monday evening right now, so that's for Tuesday. And I was like, you know what, I think tomorrow I'm gonna go get my coffee and hopefully go to the pool with my good Judy Tanya and have a pool day all day, and then come home and take a shower and get ready for my home group meeting. So I was like, I'm gonna pre-film some videos tonight so that they're all prepared for tomorrow and I can just post them and enjoy my day, and at the same time I will have gotten to do what I love to do, which is film videos. So I wanted to get on here and read a couple meditations before the night is over. You can see it's very dark in here, so if I turn on the light that is right there, the room looks very yellow, so I'm just gonna use the ring light. So I'm sitting in complete darkness with a ring light right now. But anyway, let's get into the meditations. The first one that I'm gonna read from, it's very short, but I love the sentiment, and it's from A Year of Positive Thinking, Daily Inspiration, Wisdom, and Courage by Cindy Spiegel. And it kind of speaks to, I think, the way that I have chosen to live recently in my life. And so I love this. July 20th, How to Live a Wonderful Life. Choose joy, practice love, accept others, be kind, show respect, love yourself, repeat. And I think the love yourself part is the part that I really struggled with for so long. You know, it was like, I think sometimes we are our worst enemies and we pick ourselves apart the most, you know? Things that we see in ourselves other people don't ever see, you know? Discrepancies with things that, discrepancies isn't the right word, but, you know, things that we pick ourselves apart about, things, little things that don't matter, are the things that we look at and see in the mirror, and we just pick ourselves apart, and we have that tape in our head that constantly runs against, you know, a strong belief system of all of these things that we should believe that are positive about ourselves, but instead we believe the negative, right? We believe the lie, as my sponsor says. She always says, you know, get out of the lie. We don't live in the lie today. The lie is believing all of these horrible things about ourselves that aren't true, that maybe we've had years and years of people telling us these things. I talked about that in a video the other day. Maybe we had people that were very cruel to us in our lives that told us things that were never true to begin with, but over time we started to believe them, and then they became true to us. Or maybe we were raised in an environment, you know, where we were neglected, or we weren't loved, or we had harsh criticism from a parent or a grandparent or a teacher or somebody. Or maybe we were raised in an environment like I was, where I was bullied a lot from school, you know, and people told me that something about me was wrong or different or unlikable, when none of those things are true, you know? And I think over time, if we're told something long enough, like I always quote the Pretty Woman quote, I just watched the movie this weekend, you know, when he says to her, you know, you're so beautiful, and she says the bad stuff is easier to believe. When somebody tells you something long enough, you start to believe it. I fed into the lie for so many years, and it wasn't necessarily just a lie that other people had said to me. It was things that I believed about myself that were not true, you know, that like, you're too heavy, you're too this, you're too that, you're too slow, you're not smart enough. I believed that for a long time, right? Instead of maybe I studied differently than other people, or maybe I learned differently than other people, you know, or maybe instead of sitting there and taking notes and studying my notes, what I learned for me that works is to just pay attention and listen. Like I can be a very active listener and I retain information that way. It's why I learn lyrics to songs very quickly. And I've learned that over time, that's how I learn. Not everybody learns that way. It doesn't make me stupid. It makes me a different learner, right? And I think it's all of these things where over time, if we just love ourselves, and when we become able to love ourselves, then we are able to accept others for differences that they have as well, you know, or things that maybe we see in them. You know, one of the things that has happened over time with me, and I don't really know where this has come from, but I can only believe that it's come from a place of me wanting to love myself and really worked on loving myself, is that there have been groups of people in my life that I have been resistant to, okay? And one of which would be people that have a very strong religious belief where they think that people that are gay are wrong, right? And although I don't know that I would have them for dinner in my home and entertain them and things like that, at the same point, I have begun to understand where they come from. Not that I agree with them, because I don't, but I've been able to understand, and my mom really helped me with this a lot, that a lot of that comes from a place of fear or a place of belief, and just because, and I'm not talking about people that condemn me, okay? I'm talking about people that just, they don't believe that, being gay is the right thing. And one of the things that I've learned is, that's what they believe. I don't have to acknowledge that. I don't have to be okay with that, but maybe for me to meet them where they're at and see that they're human beings too, that have emotions, that have feelings and things like that. And that's allowed me, that one experience has allowed me to open up to all kinds of people in this world that weren't like-minded or whatever, I'm not somebody that, if somebody has a different opinion than me or a different philosophy or a different belief system, I am not somebody that just shuts them down immediately. I'm somebody that sits there and says, okay, let me meet you where you're at, because I wouldn't want somebody else to shut me out just immediately and not listen to what I have to say when my belief system and my philosophy is very important to me. So I try to listen to others and hear where they're coming from, and sit there and have a conversation, and when they share something with me that I don't agree with, or a belief system or a philosophy that I don't necessarily align myself with, I'll say, explain to me why you feel that way. Explain to me why you believe that, right? And if they're able to, then I don't have to say, oh, I agree with you now. I think that's what we're afraid of often, is that what we're trying to do is coerce somebody to believe something that we believe, right? When we're having these deep conversations. But whatever happened to just the ability to have a conversation with somebody that didn't believe the same thing that we did, right? Why does it always have to go to a point of anger? And I really, to be honest with you, I blame social media to some degree about this. It's like Facebook. It's like, if you don't agree with me, then unfriend me. And it's like, we have no longer been able to have conversations with people. If my mind has ever changed about something that I believe in my life, it's because of other people sharing their stories with me. It's because I have experienced different things that have made me change my mind about something, right? So I think that it's important for us to sit down and have open conversations with one another and not be afraid of that. But first, we have to love ourselves. First of all, we have to love ourselves enough to trust ourselves, and believe in ourselves enough to know that what I believe in, okay, and what my philosophy is just as important as anybody else, and not believe the lie that I'm not smart enough, or my beliefs don't matter, or, I'm too heavy, or I'm too this, or I'm too that. You know what I mean? I don't want that tape running in my head anymore. It destroys any kind of enjoyment that I have on a daily basis. And I don't want that to be the case. I want to enjoy my life. So this is a great meditation. Let's read it again. Choose joy. And every day that we wake up, we have the opportunity to choose joy or to choose misery. That is really a truth. And I'm not talking about, we are all at some point in our lives going through horrible tragedies and whatever, right? But I do believe that, how we respond to that. Have you ever met somebody I've met several people like this. Not a lot, but I would say in my life, maybe 5 or 6 people like this, that it seems like they are so beaten down and they have had such tragedy occur in their life, and yet they handle it with such grace. Those are people that I look up to. Those are role models in my life that I look at, right? How do they handle life with such grace? I haven't had just not even an 1/8 or a 1/10 of the tragedy that they've had, and yet they handle it with a smile on their face, and they're so peaceful and serene. And I think what they realize that a lot of us don't is that every day that we wake up, we can choose joy, We can choose to look at things in maybe a positive way or a learning experience kind of way, or with peace and serenity in our hearts. Practice love. I think love is one of the greatest things that we can, give to one another, and just with a loving heart, looking at somebody and looking at a situation, or, maybe love, I have heard this said to me many, many times in recovery, more so in my early days, that when I had real issues with people, I needed to pray for them to have the things that I wanted in my life. And what that allowed me to do was it allowed me to see them as a human being and to love them as a human being that had the same emotions and the same feelings as I did, you know? And to see them not just as a person that was trying to deliberately hurt me or being calculated towards me, but they were a person that had hopes and dreams and tragedies and things like that in their life as well. And what it really made me realize over time was that they had no power over me. They really didn't, you know? And especially if I approached it from a point of love. That's difficult to do. It really, really is. I still have to practice that today, you know? There are still people that come into my life and I'm like, oh God, to approach this with a point of love, right? But like I said, those 5 or 6 people out there that I look at, that are role models to me. They approach people with a point of love, even if they're people that they don't really like, you know? And they would be there and do something for them in a heartbeat. And that's who I want to be today, you know? Accept others. I think that's a big part of it. You know, not just accepting others that agree with everything that we have to say, but meeting people where they're at. Maybe they don't agree with us. Maybe we don't agree with what they have to say, but asking them why, you know? And if there are people that I think are good, loving, caring people, but maybe they just have a different belief system than us, we can have a conversation with them. It doesn't mean that we have to be best friends with them. It doesn't mean that we have to agree with what they say, but we can have a conversation with them. And when we do accept others, they start to accept us as well sometimes. And when that happens, then maybe they are willing to listen to what we have to say, and maybe then one day they'll have a moment of clarity where they go, aha, I never looked at it that way. And it works both ways, right? And then being kind. And I think it's sometimes, you know, I heard this said by Toni Morrison, and I love this, that we are sometimes kinder to strangers than we are to the people in our own homes. You know, it's easier to be kind to the person at the barista at Starbucks or the person that works at the grocery store, but then we come home and we take it out on, you know, our partners or whatever, and it's like, we got to be kind to everybody. We didn't treat people the way that we would want to be treated. Hell, we learned all of these things before we got on the bus for kindergarten, you know what I mean? Well, I walked. I walked to school. But, you know, we learned all these things, you know, about being kind to one another. Show respect. And I think this has been kind of a lost art. I think especially like showing respect to our elders. I grew up always calling people Mr. and Mrs., like even our neighbors and things like that. And I think today, just with like doctors and nurses and dentists and stuff, it's like we don't show, and not just those people, but anybody, your neighbor on the street, you know, showing the same kind of respect, treating people the way that we would want to be treated, you know? Even if we aren't treated that way, to treat people the way that we would want to be treated. And then love yourself and repeat. And I love that. I love that so much. But it really all does start with loving ourselves. If we can love ourselves, anything is possible. So don't believe in the lie. It's not worth it. You know, believe in the truth. That you are lovable, that you are going to be okay, and that you're going to have a good life. Because you deserve it. And there's good times coming ahead. I promise. I love you, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.